Hello, and welcome to another episode of Transcendent Leader, the cutting edge of leadership today. We are joined by an incredible guest, and before I bring him on, I want to introduce myself. My name is Andrea Albright. It is such a pleasure, an honor, and a celebration of life and leadership to be with you here today. Of course, we have our amazing creator and mastermind of this entire event, Satyan Raja. Hi, Satyan, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much, Andrea. Always great to have your wonderful reception. Thank you, everyone who's here watching and being part of this. I hope today becomes an inspiration and an awakening for you to be able to take your personal and business life to whole new dimensions. So welcome.
That's multi-dimension travel is always guaranteed. I know we are going to definitely explore some fascinating topics with our very special guest. He is not only a leader in an incredible organization, but he is also one of the most kind, compassionate, and heart-centered individuals I have ever known. What a pleasure to have you here. Welcome, John Kraemer.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the comments. It's nice to hear. So, looking forward to our event here today.
Yes, and I know we have so much that we can share. Let's give a background of how long you have been working with Satyan and what makes you a transcendent leader.
I'd be happy to. So first, I believe I met Satyan around late 2008, early 2009. So I started working with him off and on through his old format. I went on some of his adventure tours, that kind of thing. And then when he was starting up the CEO program, he approached me, and at the time I was looking for something more. So it was a good time, and I joined up, and I've been with him ever since on the journey. So it's been very transformative.
That's amazing. And before we go into that, tell us about your business, what you do, what you run, and a little bit of your background as a leader.
Okay, I'd be happy to. So first, I'm co-owner and president of Worley Manufacturing. We do sales and service of boilers and boiler room, industrial and commercial, as well as rentals, that kind of thing, in the province of Ontario. That's in Canada. And yeah, I've been with the company since 1988, and I took over in 2004. So I've been doing this for just over 15 years as the leader.
Amazing. And you've had some phenomenal growth in the business since you took over as leader. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So since 2004, that was when my business partner and I took over. We had a lot of changes, and that's basically what's the main focus has been. That change is always happening. There has always been change happening at the company. So we went from something that was very static and had been the same for a long time to really initiating a lot of changes and got the team used to change. So, and once that happened, then that's about when the time I started working with Satyan in this format was a very good time, because I was getting bored. The company was doing well, everything was doing well, and it was what's next? What is next for me? So that's when I started working with Satyan one-on-one, and from that point on, change really started happening. So I look back at the last 6 years, and we have grown in the territory that we cover. We have also grown in sales. We've also grown in employees. We've also grown in products that we represent. So we went from one main manufacturer to now we've got 5. We've gone from representing a small part of Ontario to now covering the full province, and having multiple offices, I'm looking at this year, by the end of 2020, we should have doubled our number of employees from when I first started working with such in. So that's huge growth. Along with that is up-leveling all the skill sets, up-leveling the policies, the procedures, just the whole company has gone through up-level after up-level as I've gone through my up-level after up-level working with such in. So.
Wow, that's incredible. Congratulations on all that you are achieving. And I know you're not done yet.
Nope.
Let's bring Satyen into this conversation. So Satyen, what makes John a transcendent leader from your perspective?
Well, first of all, John holds great humility. You know, his success is understated here. His company has grown. He's continuing to boom. But what I can really share about John and the principle of transcendent leadership is that we are in a mirror reality. That's the assumption that the external reality that's forming around us is a reflection of the transmission we are emanating. And through this work that we've been doing, you know, John wanted to grow his business and he wanted to grow his personal life, his spiritual life, his relationship life, his physical life. What makes him a very powerful transcendent leader is that he has been working diligently, focused on all aspects of his human potential. And so just a couple of years back, he became a fitness, you know, worked on becoming a fitness champion and got on stages. And the challenge was going from a businessman who's so full with work and business to taking the time to say, no, not only am I going to make health a priority, I'm going to actually go up on stage, break through my fears, go through any, yes, not me, how can I do that with all that I have? And he's become an example of really profound health and vitality. That's just one example. The other example is that John has taken the principles that we have regarding faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun, and he lives it, he potentializes it. So his relationships with his parents, he's not married, you're not married, but he's got wonderful relationships. And every time, John, you share with me about your nieces and your love and their love for you, as you know, like you're just an amazing uncle, and that you take the time to spend time with your family, to give them your heart, to nurture their spirit, and to also get nurtured. Very few entrepreneurs take the time and value that so much, and you do that. That's another thing I want to acknowledge. And I want to inspire and show from your example that we can, as entrepreneurs, foster these main pillars of our life, our health, our family. Finances, needless to say, your business keeps booming, and that's always awesome to hear. Yeah, and we're on track for more than 10x already. We're very much on track, and I'm really excited about that. But the other stuff, the soft stuff, is what I have to really share about here with John and this philosophy. The idea is that when we become more aligned with our soul and our mind, we bring them into unity. Our mind can have so many ideas, endless ideas on what to do, what to create. But sometimes the ideas, the thoughts, the inventions, the should we's, they don't align with the comfort in our soul. John has cultivated in himself this ability to feel, to truly trust the soul's voice, which is beyond words, and direct his mind to achieve even far greater results with way less effort. Mm-hmm. And you've been an impeccable leader with your people. They feel your care, John. They feel how much you really care for not only the work that they're doing, but their evolution in life. So to me, those are some of the principles that when we are living as leaders, when we are taking care of ourselves, taking care of our families, taking care of our teams, and also, this is the deepest part I haven't shared, John is so deeply connected to his metaphysical reality. He's very sensitive. He's dialed into higher perceptions. He's dialed into the energy that's behind the physicality of this world. And because of that cultivation of that energetic awareness of, if you will, the subtle dimensions, the spiritual dimensions, I truly believe that that depth of wisdom informs his day-to-day directions so that there's more peace, more flow, and more abundance. So I could go on, but John, those are some of the things I've seen that you've been living and that we've all been practicing, and I want to encourage everyone practices and cultivates.
Wow. I mean, so much to cover here. And John, I want to give you a chance to respond to that. First, I want to welcome all of our live viewers. Wonderful to have you here in this space of co-creation. And I also want to invite you, if you have a question or a comment, we want you to be a part of this conversation. So anything you want to share, we will be here to receive it. So John, what does it feel like to have Satyan say all those amazing things about you?
It's amazing to hear those things, but it also, it helps me to ground them and take ownership of them. So it was very nice to hear what Sachin had to say, and it does really show me my evolution over the last few years.
Wow, so powerful. You know, there was something you said in the beginning when we first started talking, and you mentioned that you got to a place in your career where you were bored. And can you share more about that? Because I think a lot of viewers and people out there who are receiving this message may be experiencing that on some level. And really that could be a crisis for a leader, because here you've worked so hard to achieve all this success only to find that you're bored through the process. I mean, what was that like? And how did you deal with it at the time? And where are you at today in terms of boredom and excitement?
So in looking back, and this process was very good as I was preparing for today, because it did force me to look back, because I don't always take the time to look back to where I was and what I was feeling, because I'm totally different today than I was at that time. The boredom was, after being at the job for 25 years, I've done everything that I wanted to with it, I thought, and I didn't know where to go from there. And I thought, well, maybe it's time to go somewhere else, that kind of thing. And I'm so glad I didn't. The growth, it was about the time I started working with Sachin that I started looking at the company as its own individual entity. And so my responsibility was then to tend to that, to listen to what the company wanted. So and as I'm experiencing now, the company wanted to grow in a huge way, and I just wasn't listening at the time. So to be in my shoes now with the company, it's exciting. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of energy moving through it, and it is very satisfying to me to see the changes and to take a company that was more at the time probably focused on earning money to one now that is more focused on serving the customers, serving the employees, serving everyone that's involved with it, serving the suppliers that we have. So it is very much shifted from a, hey, what's in it for me, to a what's in it for everyone. And that is a much more satisfying relationship with the company that I have now than I did.
Wow. Well, it sounds like that's been a huge transformational shift. Mm-hmm. Satyan, can you speak to that? Do you find that leaders tend to get bored at a certain level, and how do you help them move through that?
You know, let's look at the analogy of these Russian or Ukrainian dolls, Vushka, Petrushka dolls. There's a doll on the outside, you open it up, there's another one in there, you open that up, there's another one in there, and you keep opening them until you find the core. In the same way, our deepest mission and purpose and vision in life also goes through these stages. So we might have a goal of, when I was a younger fellow, my goal was to become a martial art teacher. And then when I became a martial art teacher, it was achieved. I was like, wow. And I did that for many years. And John did what he did for many years. When you're running your purpose and mission fully, and you're putting your dedication into it, you're using up the gas tank. Eventually that mission will be fulfilled. That purpose for its evolution in itself and its evolution for you gets fulfilled. And when it does get fulfilled, there's a sense of, wow, I can now do this. This feels comfortable. And we start entering a type of comfort zone There might be still all the things of business happening, but at a soul level, we can feel my units of evolution are complete with this. So that's what I'm going to ask you. Where in your personal or professional life is where do you feel at times that my evolution is complete here? Yes, I can do this. Without a doubt, I can do this with my eyes closed. If that's the case, it usually means that you're ready for the next level of magnification of your purpose, the next truth in yourself to arise, your deepest vision. And this goes through stages. It doesn't just happen one time. Years ago, a person might have a career, 1, 2, 3 in a year. Now we might have many businesses in a lifetime that continue to evolve. So we as transcendent leaders, when we start to become more sensitive to, do I still have evolution? Is there still the capacity for me to grow, my teams to grow, not just the business, but myself as an individual, as a creative being, as a creator? Does it feel that there's still richness of evolution? And there might be. And if that's the case, then what we do is we galvanize your energy, we focus it, we find the areas that need most focus, and we start to flower the garden of one's business. That's one approach. Now, in John's case and many other people's cases, there's a flatness that sets in when you've achieved a certain degree of success or fulfillment. That flatness can lead to irritation, boredom, distractions, first, like just spending or doing stuff to try to just give you some sense of excitement, but it's not touching the core. Perhaps we might feel tempted to, strain our relationships, or might feel tempted to do something a little bit more dangerous than we want to, or that we're used to. And it's there to get some temporary thrill to somehow keep away the inner boredom or the inner sense of flatness of purpose. Our approach at Warrior Sage and Transcendent Culture is this, and becoming a transcendent leader is recognize we're in this spiraling journey constantly. And when it's time to let go of smaller goals and visions, we must do so to embrace the bigger life force, the bigger creation force that's there within us. When we say yes to that and are willing to let go of the smaller boxes, let go of our comfort zone, we move beyond this ceiling. And then when we say yes to what's next, and with a bit of pushing, a bit of prodding from mentors, what happens is then we can ascend to our next evolution. And that is where the real life force and juice is. More than just the business creation. It becomes a life force invigoration for one's soul and relationships.
Amazing. So powerful. And John, I'm curious if you could explain a little bit about how you have brought some of these cutting edge teachings into your organization, which I know has a very long history, and there was a lot of habits and ways that things were done. And so how did you bring these new approaches into an organization or a team that maybe were set in their ways? And what advice would you give to a leader who wants to expand, who wants to grow, and yet maybe their team or their organization is still staying things at the status quo?
That's a great question. As I look back, it's a little bit at a time. So if I went 0 to 90, there would have been revolt. But if you do it a little at a time, you do a change here, a change there, it evolves. And the other thing is, if I'm doing it myself as the leader, people are taking notice. So as I'm up-leveling my fitness, people are watching, and then they start changing. They ask questions about it, or they change their habits. And as I go to change the company, there's a connection there with the staff. One of the things that I've started to do is spend time with every employee every day that I can. If they're in the office, I'm going to spend I'll walk by to get coffee and just visit with them and see what's going on with them. So it's that contact that allows me to see where they are, and maybe I can help them with some struggle they're facing, whether it's personal or professional, and free them up to continue on. I've started using the accelerated evolution techniques with certain people that are open to them in the workplace, or I use part of it to free up the energy so that we can have a good conversation. So communication is key. So the work with the dyad meditations is very useful because I can sit and let somebody fully explain something to me and just absorb it. And even just that frees them up. So it's little things that add up to big change over time. The Grand Canyon took a while to make. So we just do a bit every day and it does change.
Fantastic. So Satyen, John has mentioned some of your tools that you teach to your CEOs, particularly the dyad meditation and accelerated evolution. Can you explain more of what those are?
Certainly. So these are methods, accelerated evolution processes are psycho-spiritual methods where they're very simple guided exercises that you can take yourself through, you can take your teams through, your executive teams through, anyone who's got any type of challenge, upset, struggle mindset. They feel down, they don't feel on task, they don't feel at their fullness in their work. Usually there's some psychological inner tension, struggle or strain, something that's upsetting them, or something that they've repressed or stuffed down in their psyche. And so with these processes, literally within minutes, we can excavate what the challenge is and transform it. So people go from stuck, grumpy, angry, low performance, to now feeling, wow, I belong, I am here, I'm fresh, I'm alive, I'm ready, put me to task. So that can happen in a very short period of time. So we have very specific processes that we train our leaders to do to apply these principles of transcendent leadership in transcendent culture, because it's one thing that we have it as a leader and grow it. But the beauty is now we can take this up leveling of our company right to our teams. One of the foundation trainings that we do is on communication. Now there's many communication teachings out there, but what we have is very specific communication practices that up-level the team's capacity to relate to each other, to finish communications, to complete them, to make sure when they're sharing tasks and such that everyone knows what's going on. And this particular philosophy is based on what we call the affinity, reality, communication triangle. So I'll explain that in a nutshell. Healthy communication in a workplace, in a team, when you have great affinity. Affinity is a sense of closeness, connection, camaraderie, that all for one, one for all feeling. So we can work on cultivating affinity with our teams. There's very specific ways of doing that, especially when affinity is broken down. The other part of good communication is reality. Are our agreements real? When you say you're going to do something and finish it, is it real, or are you just saying it? So we look at what is the reality. How strong is our individual and teammates in producing real results, real communication, being solid with their agreements and following through with their agreements with impeccability. So we have affinity creation, reality, and then we also have communication cycles. And communication cycles means making sure that when I'm sharing right now, when you understand, you say, thank you, I receive it. When you share with me, I got it, thank you. Many times in businesses, there are so many dropped communications, mishandled communications, lost communications. Communication is a key component for everyone to move together. The way we do it through this philosophy is we raise the consciousness, we train people on how to communicate in a way that serves each other, in a way that's uplifting and empowering, and that takes personal responsibility for the tasks that we have. It's very powerful to see in practice, and John has been doing this and living this, and the fact that he can bring it to his teams, this is what I'm really, really inspired by, because then it takes it from here and brings it all the way through the organization. That's what makes the spiral really accelerate upwards.
Oh, that's so profound. And what you would think would be this huge investment of time and energy actually turns out to be way more effective with very little of having to take time. And that actually leads into, we've got a question that's coming in, and they're asking, John, you mentioned that you go through and connect with every one of your employees throughout the day. How are you going to manage that when you double the employee size?
I use my intuition, and I'll just walk around, and it'll pop up who needs more time, who's doing all right. So I use my intuition to guide myself through the office, but we do have two offices. So right now I'm up at the second office, and I'm spending time with them, and it's exponential, the benefit of that. They actually expressed how good they feel when I am at the office, how everything sort of upload. They said everything gets busier when you're here. Everything gets there. It's like it's activating them in a new way. And we had a really good meeting this morning, and very positive, and everyone went off on their way. That was one group with everyone at once, but there's other times it's just going through as they're doing their work and say, hey, what's going on? Is there anything that's coming up? It doesn't take long. And even if it's just checking in and saying, hey, what's going on? That's enough. That they just my presence and the connection with them, it just ties everything together. Sachin can probably explain it in a different way, but it's just my experience, and it's a very beneficial for bringing the team together. And when I have not done it, that's when issues arise with employees. When I have not done it, let's say I was on vacation, then I was busy catching up and I did not take the time to do that, that's when I experience emotions or unsettledness or irritation with the team. So that's just my experience.
What I'm picking up is that it's more of the quality of the connection instead of the quantity. So it's not like the time or the amount that you do it, it's the way that you're showing up when you're showing up. And so they're feeling that quality of connection. Satyan, can you elaborate on this? Because it seems like maybe a leader would be thinking, oh, great, here's one more thing I've got to do is go and connect with everybody every day. So how do we manage that?
Well, in organizations, the number one thing I've noticed is the lack of human connection, the lack of genuine, authentic, transparent, soul to soul, human to human, caring to caring connection. And the way we can remedy that is, well, first of all, the detriment of that is when people are not there at a human level and we only see them as human potential, human resources. Think of the term, even human resources. The languaging itself looks at people as chattel, as units to gain money from, like in the Matrix, sucking energy out of them to get them to do what you want. That's the old paradigm. And the transcendent culture paradigm is that the humanness is the center of all this activity. A corporation is cooperation amongst a bunch of people to create something amazing. That's what a company is. When you're in good company, the company fosters. When the company is not accompanying, when you're not connected, when people are siloed doing their own thing, or hiring them only based on their resumes, not based on their human capacity to connect and to inspire and to uplift everyone else in the organization, then this is the major problem of many of the businesses I've seen. Now, the remedy, coming back to that, is connection, true contact. And I know with my wife, my children, they don't want hours with me every day, but like you shared, when they can have my genuine, deep connection, unfettered, my presence is the number one gift we can give our teams. It's our presence with care, our presence with the feeling of embracing that I'm here for you, and our loving, conscientious presence that I'm there to be underneath you, to lift you up as a leader. I'm not above you to see what you're doing and how well you're doing it, and are you on task. That's there, but it's coming from a place that I'm under you. I care for you. You're a valid human. You're an amazing being. You're a spectrum of talents. How can I learn about you more? What goes on in your family? Are you married? Not? Do you have children? These simple things of caring as a leader, to know the truth and the insides of our teammates makes all the difference. That tangible care results in an evolutionary life force that gets lit up. And then when you care about your team, they start caring about each other. And then it grows, and then you start to have a culture of care and connection. Contact with each other, true contact, is the carrier wave of all forms of success.
That's amazing. Thank you for that distinction. And it seems also that you will be filled up through those interactions. And so it's not this like you one-sided dumping and giving. You're also being fulfilled by bringing your whole presence into the connection. Yeah, so powerful. Well, John, you mentioned that you use your intuition to tap into your team and to your employees. Your intuition seems like it's a powerful resource, a powerful tool for you. And the growth of your company is astronomical. I actually think I heard you say at one point that it's 400%. Am I correct on that? And how have you used your intuition to grow your company? Did you ever see it going this big, this far?
That's again, a very good question. In working with such as I said earlier, change is always happening. So am I going to be unconscious in the change and reactive, or am I going to be involved in the process? So I've decided that it's better to be involved in the process and consciously choose. So in my work, have made slides of what I wanted it to be like. And it is getting to that. So by setting the goals and creating it in my head, what it looks like, what it feels like, seeing the growth of the company, and then we move into that reality that was created. So it's a conscious co-creation of the change, rather than just being at the sailboat, just going wherever the water and the wind blow it. So it's a very powerful way. So while there's been a lot of growth, I did consciously picture that, and now it's there have been leaps of growth, and then it's filling in the details that I didn't see in my picture. So then there's another leap, and then you fill in the details. You hire the employees. You redo things that you didn't anticipate in your picture, but they all have to come together for it to up level. Then it gets a balance, and then you do it again. That's just been my experience. So over the last six years, it's been okay. We build up, then there's a jump. We filled it in, then there's another jump. So that's the pattern that I've seen.
And it seems like we're really touching into the realm of the transcendent. So Satyan, how important is the intuition for a leader who wants to become a transcendent leader and bring their vision into reality?
It's paramount, and when we shared about intuition here, again, I'm going to share about the soul and mind unity. As business leaders, we must have a strong mind. We got to deal with all the business that we have to do, all the mental ruminations that we have to do, all the calculations, all the moving of many pieces. We have to cultivate a strong mind, and this is essential. What we usually don't cultivate as business leaders is the reception to our soul, the inner knowingness, what John called intuition. Now, Usually intuition in these circles is not thought of much or poo-pooed or not given much credence. Yet in the transcendent leadership philosophy, it's the core of our navigation system. I truly believe that the soul is our, and by soul I mean the innermost aspect of ourself. When we strip away our thoughts, our identities, our education, our upbringing, our wherever we came from, all of that, and we look at ourselves just as a being, that being has a already built-in feeling navigation of what's right, what's wrong, what's truly good, what's truly not for us. And so when we start to become sensitive to this, and part of our training is to do that, we learn how to empty the mind of all types of extraneous thoughts, settle it, so we can start becoming aware of the strong intuition that's always informing us. We can't listen to it when it's filled with interference patterns and noise of our struggle and all the other thoughts that we're attending to. So part of our practice as transcendent leaders is taking the time to move away, to retreat from all the noise of life, to slow down. Sometimes we call these sessions extreme laziness sessions, which sounds like crazy, but there's times as entrepreneurs we need to balance the yang force of doing with moments of deep no doing, nothing at all. And those moments give us a greater touch and clarity to the inner voice of our essence. Now, as that awareness grows, then we can feel, okay, here's a business deal on our table. Our mind feels a yes to it, but our soul says no. We need to do more stuff around this, check into it, or release it and say no, thank you. Sometimes our soul will say yes. There's a strong feeling of congruence to follow through with this business deal. There's a strong yes inside, but the mind may feel, there's something not right with the numbers and all of that. So then we go through the due diligence of that realm. And then the due diligence might say, you know what, it's not working out, then we let go of that deal. But if the due diligence comes back from the mind level that says, yes, that's clean, the soul says, yes, that's a good feeling and feels comfortable, then we move forward with that decision. We don't do it before that. If we do, there'll always be some backlash, always be some balancing force that knocks us down later when we move ahead of the game without this soul and mind unity. It always shoots us in the foot. So as we feel for the comfort here, as we feel for its congruence and the settling of our mind, then our intuition takes on really the chief direction officer role of the company. The chief wisdom officer of the role in the company is already within. So intuition is paramount. Once we learn how to tap into it, and once we learn how to trust it, and then we become a servant to that intuition, which can only bring us expansion, goodness, and awakening.
Fantastic. Well, here we are into the multi-dimension conversations that we promised. We knew this would happen. John, Satya mentioned that you are a master of the metaphysical. What does he mean by that? And what does metaphysical mean to you? And how has it benefited your life, your career, and being a transcendent leader?
So in looking at the metaphysical, as Sachin said earlier, it's a mirror world. So we are how I like to look at it is I have one foot in this reality that we're in and one foot in the space of variations, for lack of better words. And it's then navigating between those two. And so a lot of factors come into play, my awareness, my intuition, my creativity, all that makes me is activated in that. And it's knowing when to be tying into which world, which step do I take next? Is it in the physical or is it in the metaphysical world? So again, it's subtle energies that you're following, and it has taken time for me to learn how to hone that. But now I have become very trusting of my ability to navigate through that. So I don't know if that answers that, but that's just my experience.
I think it's a phenomenal way to answer it. And Satyan also mentioned your sensitivity. So have you found that as you have opened up to more of the metaphysical, that you have become more tuned in to your sensitivity, and how do you ground that?
Yes, is the answer to that. Yes, I've become more attuned to my sensitivity, and I've also become more sensitive. And partly due to in the past, before starting to work with such, and I would resist it. I would it was more about keeping me from being so sensitive. So the putting up blocks to it. Where now it's just information, and let it pass through me. So it's a whole different way of looking at it. And when I look at everything as energy, so I can either block or brace from it, or I can just let it flow through me. So it's a complete mind shift of dealing with the sensitivity, and that sensitivity has so much knowledge. So I can walk into a room and go, okay, there are people in here that are feeling this or that or the other thing, and then I can adjust and become who I need to be in that room, or I can change the energy of the room. It goes both ways. So again, it's dancing with the energy.
This is a really cool conversation, because I know myself, I had access to gifts and awarenesses, but I didn't know how to control them or manage them. And so I would shut them down or pretend like they didn't exist. And maybe leaders who are watching this are having some kind of an experience like that, where they may have intuition or even a psychic awareness, but they could be afraid of it because they don't know how to dance with it and manage it. And so, Satyan, do you find that as awakened leaders that it can be chaotic if you don't know how to manage that powerful energy?
You know, as leaders, we're managing so much energy and input from the world. And we're working with all this energy and thoughts and ideas, and then we're crafting that for a service, for a product, for team leadership. And so we're in this constant universal dance of looking at the external reality, drawing that external reality within us, looking at it from an observer disposition, then choosing and seeing what can we do to up level, release challenges, upgrade this and that. We're in this constant cycle all day long as entrepreneurs, as leaders, as business professionals. The thing about the subtle realms is this, and I'm going to put out a metaphysical concept that John was sharing about, the mirror reality. So in our philosophy, and again, I like to put the caveat of Bruce Lee's teaching, which is absorb what's useful, discard what's not, and come up with your own new creations. So having said that, get the idea that, and this comes from quantum physics, that this external reality is formed by the impressions in your own consciousness now. Cognitive biases are thinking the world is a certain way. You think certain people are this way, you believe it, and so that's what you're going to see. And you're going to reinforce that. We know about the reticular activation system when we're looking for a particular type of car. If I want to buy a brand new BMW, it's amazing how the mind will now filter and see so many of that same car, because we're attuned to that vibration. And so that vibration shows up in our presence, in our awareness. The same thing holds true for our creation of our businesses and our personal life. In our philosophy, we say that there's many infinite possibilities of universes that we can walk into. So rather than creating reality, it's a twist, it's an upgrading of that philosophy, saying instead of creating reality, there's already a reality which has everything you want in it. It's only a little bit over dimensionally. And so through our transcendent leadership practices, we learn how to disengage from this stuck reality or reality that's not preferable. And we learn, as John said, to envision. And we call this creating slides. You know those slides that you used to look through and you'd see a whole world, or a stained glass window? So in our consciousness, we create conscious slides. I want to see my business grow 10x. I want to see my relationships flower. I want to see my team taking great self-empowerment on their own. And when you see and you feel that, what's it like to live in that world? What's it like to breathe that type of reality? What type of identity must I be in? Can I hold to be able to live that reality? Well, I need to be in a reality and have the identity of a great leader who can delegate, like a Richard Branson, who's leading many companies, sipping, a cocktail from his island, right? So he saw that. And because he saw that, it's here. And so as leaders, what we do is we train ourselves not to default into what already is, but to keep opening into the universes that we wish to create. And we learn to create a portal of entry into that universe with our physiology and with our energetic system. So we learn to dial up the energy flows. The energy flows are flows within our system that are well known about in yoga and in acupuncture, but we turn on these energetic flows in our body that heightens our capacity to move into those realities which have all that we want and yearn for at a soul level already there. And the mystical miracle is they just start showing up. Now, you have to be willing to have that ultimate reality. So that's my question to everyone here. What is the ultimate reality that you're willing to have? Not dream about, not hope about, not wish about, but that you are truly willing to have. And when you know that you're willing to have and act upon it, I promise you, it'll show up at your door in a non-linear way. One of the expansions in all the business leaders that we work with is through this process of visualization and reality creation, if you will, surfing into alternate realities which have our joys already fulfilled. One of the powers of that is we don't need to use willpower as much as we used to. We don't need to be constantly forcing and pushing. We can rely on a higher force of universal coordination to plant us, to give us a non-linear jump in our business. When you start seeing this for yourself, you'll recognize this is real. I know you've experienced it. We all have experienced this. That's the essence. That's the metaphysical root of transcendent leadership.
Yeah, it really is amazing that you can speak to it, because when it happens, it is a miracle. It defies logic or reason. And the way that you speak to it, it's like, yes, that does make sense. You can actually create it into being. Now, I know, John, you are a master manifester, and I'm curious, what made the motivation for you to want to take on this new fitness approach? What was the impetus to that motivation? Where did it come from?
So originally, when the group first got together, Sachin introduced us to one of his peers, Ryan, who was all about up-leveling your fitness and health to be optimum. So, and since then, I've always had health and fitness as one of the priorities of my life. It might not be the number one priority at a time, depending on what's going on. Sometimes work has to be a priority. Sometimes it's family. So the different F's, sometimes it's finance. You just which one right now is the most pressing for my attention. So, but they're all there all the time. So right now, my intuition was it's time to revisit my health and fitness. So that's why this year, 2020, is again delving back into putting that as number one. And one of the reasons I do that is whatever you prioritize, if I don't have health, then I don't have anything. My health is one of the most important commodities for me. What that reality of being healthy and the energy coursing through me, that I need that to be a vibrant leader. So if it went down to number 3, now it's gone back up to number 1. So, and I'll just be with that and this year and see where we are at the end of that. So all the different F's cycle through, and I try to reprioritize them and watch the evolution.
Amazing. Well, it's so incredible to watch you continue to expand, to take on new dimensions of reality, and just continue to grow. So I know that we have covered a lot of really cool, esoteric, and also practical conversations in this interview, which I knew we would get a lot of great stuff from you. But to conclude, we're asking each one of our transcendent leaders to give one piece of advice to the viewer. So out of all of your experience, out of all of your training with Satyen, out of all that you have manifested and created into reality, what would be your one piece of advice that the viewer can take and put into action and implement to become a powerful transcendent leader like yourself?
So that question I could answer it many different ways, but what was coming up right now is to honor myself, and by doing this work, I have honored myself, and I've gained a new freedom. So freedom from things that used to irritate me or that would take energy from me. That now I have. I look at if you look at everything as a duality, and you've got the warrior and the sage. Well, you have now have freedom to move between warrior and sage. There's the masculine and feminine. I have the freedom. There's times where I have to be more masculine and times that I can just be more feminine. And I have that conscious choice now, the freedom to oscillate where I need to be at any moment. And that is beautiful. That is a beautiful way to live life. And that is probably one of the greatest gifts that I've received from working with Satyen.
Wow. Well, that's an incredible testimonial. Satyen, I'd love to hear your feedback on what John just shared.
John shared about the freedoms: faith, family, finance, fitness, fun. You could put in some other ones as you want. And, the number one, power, the number one aspect of freedom is the power to choose the life that you wish to live, how you want to live it, when you want to live it, have it on your terms. And so I truly feel that choice is the essence here. And in our work, Transcendent Leadership, the first thing we do is we come to the recognition of our true nature. I take every one of the leaders through a process. You've been through it, you both have been through it, called Kensho, where you awaken to who you are beyond all labels. In the East, that's the Japanese have called it Kensho, or Samadhi, self-realization. When this experience happens, your ability to make choices from yourself, not from parental influences, societal influences, or past imprints, but truly from yourself. When you choose your own freedom and how it looks, then you get to have the freedom that you deserve. And so freedom is the essence of all of this, empowering our own freedom of choice, empowering our team's freedom of choice, and having our companies be an example of heightened freedom. I believe that's the day and age, and that's where we're at. Starting from the self, moving out in all dimensions.
I love that. And that goes back to what John says of honoring himself, being able to expand and impact so many more people. Well, I know that, John, I am one of the people whom you have made a forever impact on. It's always such an amazing connection to feel you, to experience you. You really do bring your whole being into the interactions that you give to individuals and to your organization. I want to thank you for taking the time to share your wisdom and your experience. And I'm curious, what's next for you?
You know what? I'm going to remain in that curiosity too. Right now, I'm focused on where I'm at, and I know there's something coming, but I'm shrouded from that. So I'm just going to focus where I am needed and not try and delve into the future too much.
That's the best answer I've ever heard. Wow. Well, thank you for meeting us in this dimension, John. Always such a pleasure to see you. And thank you for all the wisdom you've shared with us and our viewers today.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you.
And Satyan, this is another amazing episode. Thank you for bringing us all together. Thank you for your passion to help leaders become the best versions of themselves. In conclusion, what would you like to share?
Know thyself. Be true to thyself. Be true to your inner calling, your inner knowing, and you'll always attain deep peace and fulfillment.
That's so powerful and so important. I know that I have been uplifted and refreshed from this conversation. And just like every conversation, we are all in this together. We'd love to hear your feedback, your comments. What's your big takeaway? How are you going to use what you have learned in today's episode and apply it to your life as a leader? Because remember, the more we are awakening to this transcendent level of leadership, the more we are able to give ourselves and others and our mission on the planet. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. So amazing to co-create in this space, and we will see you again very soon. Until next time, here's to your transcendence.
Thank you.